Divorce Talk Radio does not give therapeutic advice. The topics discussed are for informational purposes only. If you are in need of therapy, please consult a licensed professional in your own state. Welcome to tonight's show. This is Emily and my co-host Kevin.
Good evening.
Hi, Kevin. Can you just give us a little background on yourself?
Sure. Believe it or not, I guess so, that I'll be 50 later this year. The big 50, so I'm still under the 50 mark. But I have two children, 26, 27 now. Been married for almost 17 years and been living in Rockford just about the same amount of time. But originally from Chicago's northwest side and live out towards the southeast parts of Rockford.
Wonderful.
So heavily into sales and marketing and media as well as my professional background.
Great. And what brings you here to be my co-host?
Well, I think we have a lot in common, especially with the listeners as well when it comes to the topic of divorce. I mean, oh my gosh, we've all been through it, and it is being nice with that word. We've all been through it in a number of different avenues. Sometimes it takes months to get through a divorce. Sometimes it takes many years to get through a divorce. And
right.
I know with your business, that's part of it, is to help with the grieving,
yes,
the counseling, and just to get through it all.
Right. And so you're divorced.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's been divorced now. A little bit over 2 years, but to get to the 2-year part, it actually took 2.5 years to get to that particular date. So it was a lengthy process.
Right. Sometimes it's longer than others.
Yes, and I think a part of that, too, could be related to finances, also related to attorneys, also related to the courts, and just other unexpected delays that happen. And as you know this, and many do, you could have that court date, and your hearing or your parent's supposed to be there at 11 o'clock, and you might never make it to court because of the backlog, or something happens with the people that were in front of you, and that got delayed, and then that gets postponed. So what happens to you? You get postponed,
right,
and the trauma continues.
Right, or else there's an emergency that needs to be taken care of.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you for sharing
Sure.
that to our listeners. And I'm glad that you mentioned something about counseling, because tonight I want to discuss the differences between coaching and counseling. And I am a grief coach, so I coach my clients through the pain of divorce to the joy of life, because it doesn't have to be painful. And there is joy after divorce, which you have come to realize, I'm assuming.
Oh my goodness. It is fantastic, and literally just when you don't think there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
And we've all been there. There was none. We couldn't see it. No matter what we did and how our day went, we know it wasn't there. But guess what? It was. It was there, and we're proof positive about what is on the other side. And yet, there is that flashlight just waiting for you when your time is right.
Right, exactly.
You'll see that light.
Exactly. You have to be ready.
Yes.
Yes. So, just a little bit of information about coaching and counseling. A coach isn't a counselor, and a counselor is not a coach.
Right.
So they're very different, but they both achieve methods at the end, different ways. So coaches, they see their clients as ideal clients, and they can help them the best they can, and choose to see them fall in the areas of the coach's expertise. So my expertise is working with individuals, whether it be single with children or just single and divorced. I work with them through their grief and help them reach their goals. Our energy attracts our clients to us, where a counselor, they will take any person that shows up.
Right.
So it's a little different there. And also, counselors believe or see that the client is broken and needs fixing, which is very different than coaching.
Oh my goodness, we were broken and finally we are fixed. But absolutely right. That's why there is that difference between the coaching and the counseling part.
Right.
There is the difference.
Right. And the coach believes that people are not broken. Their hearts might be broken, but them as people are not broken. They're not in need of mental health fixing, because grief is not an illness. It's not an illness.
Right.
So they're not coming to us to be cured, so to say. They're wanting to achieve peace through the recognition of their own power. So they actually do the work instead of like rehashing the situation.
Well, I kind of think where we would be at if we didn't have someone to help us along, someone to coach us through the process. It was horrible. Even with all our friends and people we have around us and acquaintances, we still needed to find that person or persons that had the experience, that have been through a number of other people's divorces and their problems that come with it. So coaching's a big part. And fortunately, we were able to find the right people, the right coaches, to get us through our dilemmas during our divorces.
Exactly. Right. And it's a huge benefit, because looking at the goals versus, okay, how can we fix you? That's such negative energy, trying to fix someone, other than trying to go on their experiences and trying to change the mindset of the individual instead of you're broken. Because how does that feel? That doesn't feel very good.
And that's a difficult task, because, when somebody is down in the dumps, how do you get that person back up?
Right.
How do you get that person to say, hey, buddy, everything is going to be okay. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. But there was some times where I didn't want to, get up in the morning or get out of bed or even try to go on with my life. That's how much a divorce can affect someone.
Exactly. And so with coaching, there are tools that we learn that help the individual cope with the pain and the grief and move forward, which is, I think, a big thing as well, because you don't want to be stuck in that. And you want to raise your energy, and you want to raise your self-esteem, and all that is done with coaching.
And it's all done in baby steps.
Exactly.
I try to, and you did as well, I'm sure many other divorced people, you're trying to think ahead. Well, you could only think so far ahead.
Right.
You can't think too far ahead. Literally, I kept thinking, oh, well, what is going to be next year at this time? Or 2 years. Well, you can, but I realize it now that no, you can't. You have to go 1 week at a time, 1 day at a time.
Right.
To get through the process and to meet with a counselor, meet with someone of your profession, with your business. And then, of course, there's always the day-to-day aspects you have to get through life. So you have to do 1 day at a time.
Right.
We can't think too far ahead, because everything changes so instantly, especially in the courts. And if your spouse and something happens with this, and there's some other disagreements that go on, and different paper changes, and there might be a judge change. I mean, everything takes place.
And there's certain triggers as well that will trigger that anxiety, and with coaching, that helps. The tools that we have helps with that anxiety, and you can do it at home. We give the tools to the individual so that they can cope with that, and I think that's a huge benefit as well, because being able to do that at home when you're feeling that anxiousness, it's like you almost get to look, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. And then you just change that mindset. Oh, I have this tool that I can use that Emily gave me or my coach gave me. So then you can do it on your own.
Well, with your business, Freedom from Heartache, I know you offer those types of materials, because we needed those.
Yes.
And I used to reference back whenever there was a meeting or after meeting counselor. I'm saying, okay, what did we talk about? Let me recap things. And it helped put a perspective back into my mind again, like, okay, or you forget about something, or you get in those little niches that your mind is just, oh, I'm in the dumps again. Pick up the book, pick up your materials, Emily, and review, because that always helps. You have to have something to go back on, because once you leave the counselor's office, that's it. You're back on your own.
Right.
And there's nothing more depressing and heartache going through a horrible divorce on your own.
Right.
Books and pamphlets, all information is ever so helpful.
Yes. Have you actually been through counseling yourself, Kevin?
Yes, I did. Yeah, there was a place here in Rockford that I went to from time to time through my employer, and they suggested it. And it was a big help. Mm-hmm. It was a very good help. I think it just reinstilled me that I wasn't that wrong. I was pretty much, my thinking was straight. Mm-hmm. I'm a big believer in common sense. I will live and die by common sense. Literally. And what happened to me in my divorce really messed up the whole common sense aspect. Mm-hmm. I had to get back on that track and on that thinking, and that's where the counseling came in place at. Mm-hmm. We used to discuss different topics, what happened today, mm-hmm. what you do today, what happened in court. It was a whole process, mm-hmm. and it was very helpful to me. Even though you might be on track, you're trying to do the right things and trying to cope with it the best you can. Mm-hmm. If anything, this will help solidify that, or maybe you are off where you do need some tweaking,
right.
Some of the counseling. That's why counselors are out there. That's right. Why you're in business, because people do need help, and I needed help,
right?
And I wasn't afraid to get it.
Right. I also went through counseling myself as I was searching for the right path, and it worked for a while, but to me, I got to a point where I needed more guidance and more goal-based help to get me out of my stuck.
So now would this be maybe where maybe you already took care of the coaching at this part, but now you needed to be more on the counseling side, or was it vice versa?
It was vice versa.
Vice versa
I needed
then.
more
Okay.
coaching.
You needed more coaching.
Right.
Then.
I needed a different approach because I felt like every time I went in, we would kind of almost like rehash everything. So with me, that was not helpful, because I felt like I was still stuck in that icky place.
Yes.
So I was lucky enough to find the Grief Coach Academy, where I'm actually studying, and they have such amazing tools that I'm learning and have learned and are using with clients and are getting amazing results. And so counseling can work for people, but for me, I needed something a little more goal-based.
Sure.
So, and that's another difference between counseling and coaching, and which I think is amazing.
Well, that's why there are those two different categories.
Right.
I'm glad to see that your business offers both, that you're able to do both.
No, I do coaching.
Just the coaching side of it. Okay, all right.
Misunderstood.
Not the counseling, just the coaching side.
I'm not licensed. I am going through a program to become certified.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of July, I should be certified.
Fabulous. And now the counseling or the company that you're going through, mm-hmm. They're accredited type of firm. Yes. I mean, maybe you could tell me a little bit or tell us about.
Yes, it is an online facility, mm-hmm. and so we have calls bi-weekly with Aurora Winter, who is the founder and the coach, and she teaches us her tools, and so we're able to use those with our clients.
Good.
So we also have a mastermind group that we meet every other week as well, so they alternate weeks, and that is my peer coaches and I are on the phone, and if there's anything that needs to be masterminded about, what Aurora taught the week before, or if there's a special project that someone needs help with and wants all of us to give suggestions, that's what that's about.
Well, this sounds very successful, so much so now that you have your own clients.
Yes.
I mean, with your own business.
Exactly.
Freedom from heartache. Mm-hmm. So now you have your own clients, and you're getting some good feedback from
yes.
them, and they're getting some nice results from what you're learning and
right.
what you've learned going through the whole divorce process.
Right, exactly.
You see, and that's why we're here. That's why
yes.
this is Divorce Talk Radio, because we've been there, folks.
Yes.
Okay, we actually been in your shoes and live it. And sometimes our mind goes back in time, but that's just part of the whole grieving process, the whole part of the process of getting through it all.
Yes.
And
right.
that's why there's always going to be coaches. You're always going to have maybe some kind of counseling to go to, someone else to talk to.
Right.
But Emily, your business sounds fantastic, and this is good.
Thank you. It's very passionate, because I know I've done it personally. You don't have to be depressed. You don't have to stay in that place after
mm-hmm.
divorce. I know it's icky and it's not fun. I have a former spouse, so I deal with him all the time, and I've learned different ways to help those go better. So, and that's from the Grief Coach Academy. So, which is wonderful, because if you can take what I teach and I show you in my coaching and you can apply it in your life, how great is that? That's like priceless.
All you have to do is be open-minded, and you have to want to make a change. You have to want to learn that you're not going back. Your life has changed.
Right.
You are in a divorce, or you had a divorce. You can't think back. You have to think forward.
Right.
And that's what you offer.
Exactly.
Because we don't want to go back. I mean, why would you want to try to go back to a situation that was horrible?
Right.
You don't.
No.
You know, and I'm one to go back in time in a number of things. I love history. However, this is one part of history I do not want to repeat is the divorce process.
Right. And it's a little different than history.
Oh my gosh.
You don't want to go back there, and especially if you've moved forward and you've come out of it a better person, you don't want to go back to who you were. Because, like, with me, I didn't know who I was, and I was trying to rediscover who I was, because I wasn't a wife anymore. I wasn't a daughter-in-law anymore. I wasn't, on that side of the family, I wasn't a sister-in-law anymore, technically. So there's a whole lot of change that goes on. And so, again, the tools are wonderful.
Well, I think during my lifespan on God's green earth here, I had to reinvent myself a couple of times, maybe 2 or 3 times.
Right.
And this was one of the times was during this divorce, on how I had to reinvent myself and how I had to reposition myself coming out of this.
Sure.
And that's why all the coaching and counseling that I went through, along with help of my friends, and again, I still go back to the good old common sense, because you do know what's right and what's wrong.
Right.
And just a combination of it all, I felt really paid off for me in a number of different ways.
Great. It's wonderful to hear, Kevin.
So good. Well, but there is that difference. Once again, I think the coaching, you could help me out here. You're the expert here. The coaching to me would be someone that would say, okay, here's what you want to do, and then you want to do it this way and follow through with it that way. As opposed to maybe the counseling part, the counselor would say, well, let me hear your story, let me talk to you about it, let me hold your hand, and we'll be able to get through this together. Did I describe the differences somewhat accurately?
Pretty much, yes. Yes. I mean, I'm there to hold their hand as well.
Right.
Because I know what that's like. But I also give them the tools to use so that they can do it at home. I actually give my clients homework.
Good.
Every session, because that to me is very important to carry on what we went through in the session. And sometimes clients actually go through a transition in the actual session. And so to keep that mindset and that higher energy level, it's good to carry on some of the tools when they're not with me, and because it just keeps them in that higher energy, which is a good place to be. You feel better. Besides
the day-to-day happenings,
yes,
whether you're going to work and going about it, you have to keep your mind focused on something.
You do.
Because, if you go back into that mind, and the terrible thing might have happened that day at court, right, or the week before, or there's a court date coming up,
right,
it will drive you crazy.
Yes.
With anxiety, the whole bit. That's why you always have to keep busy and occupied.
Exactly.
And I think by you giving your clients various projects or homework to work on, that keeps their mind set and focused on, again, the positives that will come out after the divorce is finalized.
Right.
And journaling was a big thing for me.
Yes.
And I think you got me going on that more than anyone. Was just, writing your little thoughts, your little notes down, and everything else. And what you're doing, I think, on the journaling side is just almost talking to someone. Usually this is late at night, overnight, is when the mind starts to wander.
Yes.
And you're journaling your thoughts and ideas. And I think that was a big help for me. Even though I never looked at the notes again,
right,
it was still part of the process.
Right. Well, and I think the nice thing with journaling is you get it out on paper, so it's not stuck in your head anymore.
Right, yeah.
So that's a really awesome tool to use, because it's free. You can do it. All my tools that I give you are free, but it's just an easy thing that you do. You just, if you want to get a nice looking journal, a specific journal for that type of thing, you can do that. Otherwise, you can just grab like a piece of paper and a pen, and it's so easy to do.
That's exactly right.
And then you feel how did you feel after journaling?
Oh, it was a relief.
Yes.
Maybe some days better than others, but that's just how it goes.
Right.
But there was a few days I was really doing fine. It just helped me take some of the edge off.
Right.
And then I was able maybe to go to sleep or maybe to go get something to eat. I felt like eating now a little bit.
Right.
Well, it helped. It was a little therapeutic in some form.
Sure.
So journaling, I think, should be a big part of anybody's type of counseling and coaching and just going through the whole grieving process. Again, even though you don't look at the notes again, and I never did,
Right.
I took pages just writing everything down, what I did that day, if I talked to the girls, or all of that.
Sure.
Emily.
Sure. And did you feel like did you ever get answers from what you were journaling?
Excellent question. Yes, I did.
Okay.
Some I didn't, but some I did.
Okay.
And then, let's say the following day, I recall what I wrote down the day prior. Like I said, I never looked back at my notes again. This was just me trying to recall things. And then I realized a week later what I wrote down was actually sort of helpful the following week.
Okay.
Because part of my journaling, I used to put down, okay, Kevin, you must keep focused. Next week you have another court date, and you have to see your attorney here, and you might be seeing the kids here, and blah, blah, blah. And then, be aware this might happen, this might not happen.
Sure.
So I sort of prepared myself for that. Then the following week came, and it's like, hey, wait a minute. I called it. I was pretty good.
Good.
Whatever I thought might happen did happen. So, or close to it.
Right. Awesome. That's great.
So I'm sure you tell your clients about the journaling side of things.
Yes. There's some people that don't like to write, which is fine. That's a choice that they can do. But yes, that's something that I do like my clients to do if they're willing to, because like you said, it's very empowering, and I think it releases the stress and the anxiety in a very easy way.
With one of the podcasts you did with Brad here on Divorce Talk Radio, you had that Hawaiian phrase or that Hawaiian thinking method. I can't recall exactly what it was called because I couldn't pronounce it the first time, and I love Hawaii, as you know. I've been there about 10 times, go every year. But what maybe can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I found this fascinating, and I think it would have helped me if I would have known about it then.
Okay, yes. The Hawaiian forgiveness prayer is called Ho'oponopono.
That's it. Good.
Yes. And there's 4 sentences. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I love you. And you think of a person who's hurt you. Let's say my former spouse.
Right.
And you think of how they've hurt you. And let's say it's communication, because we had problems communicating. And you find that part of you that was responsible for that. Let's say it's 1% or 20%, but find that inside, and you direct it towards that person, and you say, I'm sorry for not communicating effectively. Please forgive me for causing communication problems. Thank you for our son. I love you. And you don't need to do it verbally if you don't want to, but if you want to, that's fine. But mainly you want to focus it on them, and that changes their energy.
Right.
It changes your energy.
See, I love that.
It's wonderful. I can tell you it's worked miracles for me in my life. And I have clients who swear by it as well, that it's just amazing. And it's one of those things where it's easy and hard at the same time, because it's easy 4 sentences, but if someone has harmed you and hurt you, it's very difficult to do.
Sure it is. To forgive someone who actually did this to you for whatever their own personal reasons were.
Right.
But it is helpful, and it has to be done.
Yes.
Might not be done fully, but there should be some forgiveness.
Right.
That needs to take place. And how do you say that term? The word again? What is it called?
Ho'oponopono.
Try to say that 10 times then. Can't even say it once. But that's a good, and again, just another method.
Yes.
That is you, and there's plenty of methods out there.
Yes.
And some work for and some don't, but but that's it. But that's what you try, and that's what you do with your business.
Right.
Is to make sure that they're getting through the process using, quote, the Emily touches, I guess you could say.
Well, that's not mine. That's from Dr. Hugh Len.
There you go.
So
well, you're still relaying it all.
I am, yes. So, and everything that I go through with my clients, I've actually done myself. So I've done all the processes that I do with my clients. So it works.
Freedom from heartache.
Yes.
This is fab. And when I take it, your website is Freedom of Heartache.
Freedomfromheartache.com.
Okay, simple as that. Then good.
Yep. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for being my co-host, and this has been a wonderful session about counseling versus coaching.
Yes, Emily.
And I just want to say one last thing about that, that coaching guides clients to just strategic ways to maximize their life, whereas a counselor helps people build support to stabilize their life. So that's another difference. So we want to maximize how great life is.
And oh my gosh, isn't it true?
Yes.
Aren't we breathing better?
Yes.
Aren't we feeling better?
Yes.
Doesn't the food taste better?
Yes.
And the sun is even brighter.
Exactly.
It just could be a lengthy process, but with the right people, we're able to get through it, and we're proof positive.
Exactly.
Right, okay. Emily McGrath, and I'm Kevin McCarthy, and this is Divorce Talk Radio.